Hey guys, welcome back to another unscripted review. I like being able to talk about movies before they've officially released, so whenever I get a chance to go see one, I want to do one of these about it. And this time, we're talking about Bring Her Back. This is the next movie by twin directors and YouTubers, the Filippo brothers. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing their names. Australian filmmakers. And if you recall, I'm not sure I was talking about this stuff back when Talk to Me came out, but I also got to go see Talk to Me early as well, which was very cool. But this time I just went to an AMC Scream Unseen, which are these cool events where they'll just kind of pick a movie that obviously agrees to do it advertising wise. And you can go see a movie before it releases. One thing that was actually kind of unique about that this time was that it seemingly had no other release yet, according to everything I looked up. Like, it didn't even have a average on Letterboxd or displayed in the reviews, because according to Letterboxd it had zero release before the 19th, which is when I went and watched it. It hasn't premiered in Australia, it hasn't premiered in the film festivals. This was like some of the first crowds to go see it outside of early screeners and press screeners, which I thought was pretty cool. So, as a pretty decent Talk to Me fan, I was really excited to get into this movie. What did I think about it? Well, it's tough, because I did like it. I liked it quite a bit, but it was also a little disappointing. I think really what made it so disappointing is that it's got almost all of the same problems that Talk to Me had, which again, I really liked Talk to Me, but it has its issues. Now, outside of problems, I think that this movie is really cool. I think it looks fantastic. I think it feels fantastic. I think the performances are amazing. All of the actors killed it. I love seeing Sally Hawkins in a role like this, because that's just not typically the kind of role she has. But the child actors really knock it out of the park too. There's so much interesting stuff going on in this movie, and with really engaging like cinematography and lighting, and their continued use from Talk to Me of kind of combining possession with like a water theme works super well. I love the sound design that they get into. During the title card, you get that water swoosh that happens during the possession scenes in Talk to Me, and it's really engaging to me. I love it. The locations are beautiful. I really like what they're doing with like their creature and their mythos in this movie. Very similar again to Talk to Me. It's got like a really cool thing that it has going for it, and in this particular instance it works really well for the themes that they're going for, and it really ties in well to like the visual aesthetic of what they're going for. I love all of the VHS scenes. It's very cool. But, on the other hand, it's got just some of the same issues that I had with Talk to Me, which is mainly in the fact that the writing can be kind of annoying. I wouldn't say that the writing is inherently bad. It's a pretty solid script, all things considered, and I think emotionally it probably works a little bit better than Talk to Me. Something that's very interesting, and that the directors themselves actually commented on in a little pre-video, is that as much as this is a horror movie, it is also a drama. And I kind of commend them for wanting to focus on dramas in their movies as much as they do. Talk to Me similarly could have been way less substantial of a movie if it just decided to be a goofy party possession movie instead of actually trying to focus on character drama. And I really appreciate that. They did the same kind of thing this time around. The characters are really well built. I love Andy as a character. I love Piper as a character. Even Sally Hawkins' character is very cool. It's interesting, even especially Ollie. Ollie is actually one of my favorite characters in the movie in terms of how he's handled. The character work is interesting. Unfortunately, the plotting with that character work is really kind of annoying. And Talk to Me does kind of a similar thing. I'll try not to spoil it because, again, this is supposed to be spoil-free. But the writing and the way they go about the conflict for like the first half of this movie is all about gaslighting, essentially, which is just not my favorite thing to watch. I don't even understand logically why they made those decisions, because we have a character who's very conniving, and as the movie goes on, we see they're willing to kind of do whatever it takes to get what they want, even to extreme things. But yet in dealing with this other character, instead of doing something more extreme, they just slowly try and like gaslight them and make their family hate them, which is just, it's not fun. I really don't enjoy watching it. It's not narratively satisfying. You're just sitting there watching somebody like gaslight and abuse somebody very subtly for like an hour. Now, of course, there are other things going on. It's working towards the other stuff, but during that part of the plot, it doesn't really work for me, and it's really unpleasant to watch, which is a shame because I like just about everything else going on in this movie. It's interesting because, again, Talk to Me had a very similar thing going on. If you know Talk to Me, it revolves around the fact that this girl who is super close friends with this family whose mom recently died and whose dad isn't super present in her life despite trying, ends up getting really wrapped up in all of this like ghostly possession stuff with a hand. The little brother ends up getting hurt and possessed because of her actions, and slowly throughout the movie the other family like distrusts her more and more and start to kind of hate her. And that's kind of like the plot of the movie. Same kind of thing, like because of some supernatural means, or in Bring Her Back's instance, it's not even supernatural means, this person is slowly like set up against their will, against their family. And I don't know why they did that twice. I can't understand why they would continue to write stories like that. And maybe that's just me personally. Maybe I'm extremely biased towards this kind of storytelling. I'm not a fan. Even the original, what is it, like a 40s movie, Gaslight, where the term came from, which I've seen, hated that. I find gaslighting a very unpleasant and unsatisfying thing to do in a movie, unless it's done like really well and not too focused on. But yeah, outside of that, I think this movie works really well. Again, I love all the visual motifs that they have going on in it. All the uses of circles and the uses of water are just so cool. The costuming is great. The movement of the camera, it's got such an alive camera. So there's really not too much that I like disliked about this movie, for as much as I dislike the kind of gaslighting plot that you get midway through. It's a really interesting movie to be in. The only other complaint I might have is because it focuses so much on its character drama, there isn't quite as much horror elements in this as you would like. And because of the nature of Talk to Me as well, just as a comparison, it doesn't even focus on them as much as that movie does. It's kind of a background thing for a lot of the movie, and to a point where it kind of more or less feels a little disappointing. I think it actually works really well for the themes of what they're going for. A lot of the main themes that they're focusing on is like how corrupt the world is and trying to shield your loved ones from that. I think that's really cool, actually, like doing that with like a visually impaired girl, and I think it's cool that they actually got multiple visually impaired kids to come and do these roles. They all killed it, and I think that's always good to be hiring the kind of role that you're casting. I know that seems obvious, but for a long time that wasn't a practice in movies. So I think that's really neat, and I think the fact that like most of the horror elements are kind of understated certainly does play into the themes that they're going for. But at the same time, on a more simple level, I think this movie is really cool. I really like when these directors do violence. I like their gore. I really like these directors as directors. And to get so little of actual like horror scenes with the cool mythos that they built in this movie is a little disappointing to me in general. The last thing I'll say with this is kind of getting to that point that I just mentioned. I really like these guys as directors. I think Talk to Me and Bring Her Back both have really strong directorial style. They're sleek, they're smooth, they're just nice modern movies that capture young people really well, which I think their career as YouTubers has given them a unique lens to do. I genuinely am excited to see them do more work. However, The screenplay on both movies, I think, is the biggest thing holding both of them back. And while, of course, if they want to continue writing scripts, go for it. I want to see you guys get better. I want more from you guys. I really like what you do. But it did make me think on the drive home just about the current state of movies a little bit in terms of how advertising for this kind of stuff works. I would say we're in kind of an extremely auteur-centric era of movie marketing. And if you don't know what that means, first of all, look it up. But second of all, essentially it means placing the entire creative view of a movie on like the vision of a person, or in this instance, for what I'm saying, like multiple people. So like right now, a director is such a bankable thing. You see it with stuff like Jordan Peele, where Jordan Peele is a really popular director and writer. People like him a lot. So pretty much anything he touches, anything he looks at, they slap his name on it. You saw it recently with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, despite Marvel not usually being something that advertises that heavy on things like cinematographer and stuff like that, got all kinds of advertising for all their random production roles because they hired people from like A24 projects and things that people would be excited about if they kept up with movies. So we're in kind of this era where the marketing is very heavily built upon the careers that people have. The idea that like, oh man, that's that writer-director. Very rarely anymore do you see non-writer directors, which is so strange to me. Now, oftentimes, like in Talk to Me and Bring Her Back, it's like one of the directors and maybe an additional writer, which again is fine. But it is very interesting that we don't really live in a film landscape anymore that allows there to just be like screenwriters who just like put out scripts, and then that those scripts get paired with directors. Like, it's so much more person-based now, it seems, especially for smaller productions where they have to be like, yes, I have a script, I'm going to direct, I'm going to do the cinematography, I'm going to bring the entire vision, and you just got to give me, a couple million, and I'll get this out, and maybe we'll make some money. And to some extent, I commend that. That's partially through the influence of distribution companies like A24, which allow these smaller productions to exist. I think despite their kind of internet presence, A24 has done a great job of letting small voices get out there. And they don't just do horror, by the way. They've produced some amazing stuff. They recently helped distribute Sing Sing, which is like an incredible movie. Very sad it didn't win any Oscars. And if you look at their total distribution filmography, as it were, which that's all they are, they're a distribution company that occasionally produces movies. It's really cool. I really commend what they've done. That's why I support them. I have an A24 hat. I'm a triple A24 member. I support them because I think what they're doing as a company is cool, but at the same time, it also has very much led to the era we're in where it's like, oh, that's an Ari Aster project. I'm going to go see it specifically because it's an Ari Aster project. Stuff like that, which I don't think is inherently the greatest for the film landscape right now, especially when it's so hard to get movies produced at all. I feel like you have a lot of good directors locked under bad scripts. I recently finally finished up the X trilogy, watched Maxine, and Maxine, Ty West is a great example for this. Ty West, sorry, my dog is barking. Ty West is a really good director. I genuinely think he is a really good director. He brings good style. I think he gets good performances out of his actors. But I think he's a terrible screenwriter. I hate the way he writes movies. Maxine sucked. X barely works, and Pearl is the most fun because its script matters so little. He's a bad screenwriter and does not know a thing about slow burns, but he's a good director, and I'm like, why don't we have somebody like Ty West directing other people's scripts? And again, it could be just because they don't want to do that. They want to continue writing their own scripts, and that's fair. I am not the arbiter of screenplay to director relationships. But it's just something that this movie got me thinking about. Anyway, I would give this movie, man, I probably should have given this rating before I went on a rant, but I would give this movie a 3.5 out of 5, which is a little bit on the generous side, but again, I really just love these directors' style. I want to spend more time in this movie because it didn't quite hit everything I wanted to, but what it did hit, I really love. So yeah, go check this movie out when it comes out. I think it comes out at the end of the month. I will hopefully get this video out very soon because it's just a simple little thing. And yeah, go watch some good movies. I'm still working on a Last of Us script. I've got another script coming up that I think is going to be cool. I'm excited. I'm incredibly busy. I'm about to hit summer, which for my job, I do an insane amount of work during the summer. So we'll see how well I can produce videos. A lot's going on in life. I'm about to go to Ren Fair. I just went to the Kendrick Lamar SZA concert. We're living life. We're having fun. Watch some good movies. Have fun. I love you all, and I will see you next time.